guys, if you're new here, my name is Angela and I am documenting my quest to become a muscle mom through life's ups and downs and challenges. It's a very raw and unaesthetic look at the journey of facing my health head on. If that sounds like something you're interested in following along with, I'd love it if you'd hit subscribe and stick around. And if you need somebody to cheer you on in your own journey, please comment below. I would love to hear where you're at. If you're at the beginning, middle, there's no real end, but you know what I mean. Wherever you are in your journey, please comment below so I can cheer you on. If you're not new here, me update, very brief, still just living my life in these braces, trying to be good about wearing them every day. Sometimes I don't get them on and then I pay for it a little bit later. But when they're on, I do not have any muscle guarding. I can just tell that everything's lining up the way it's supposed to, and I am experiencing way less pain. And as a result, I'm having a lot more success with my training, and I can feel that the rehab and the leg days are doing what they're supposed to do. I am building strength, and it's been very encouraging. And to know that I can keep going down this path and not have to sacrifice building strength and becoming a muscle mom. So today's episode is part 3 of my diet deprogramming series. If you haven't watched part 1 and 2, I definitely recommend going back to my page and checking that out just so that this video makes more sense to you. And since this is the internet, I need to say that I'm not a doctor. I am not a healthcare professional. I am not a fitness professional. I'm not certified, licensed in anything. These stories are just my own experiences, and they're mostly for entertainment purposes. So if you're ever considering trying anything new when it comes to your health, definitely consult the physicians or healthcare professionals in your life. So where I had left things off in the last video was that I had finally created this whole list of metrics that I was going to track every single day. It was going to be weight off of my bioimpedance scale. It was going to be everything I ate tracked in MyFitnessPal, and then a whole list of other metrics from my Fitbit. And then the plan was to track all this stuff in a spreadsheet every day and then go do a check-in with ChatGPT in this thread that I had started, where I kind of delved into a rabbit hole trying to sort out what my daily maintenance actually was. And the reasoning I had in my mind around this was that if I knew my actual maintenance number, I could create a slight deficit instead of an extreme one, because I had tried extreme deficits throughout my life, and although they worked sometimes, they weren't sustainable, and the weight came back on eventually. Here I am. I've set up a Google Docs spreadsheet with all of this information, and I'm going to track it every single day for the month. I wanted to have a master copy, a place in case I decided to be done with the ChatGPT thing. I wanted to have a record for my own self that wouldn't disappear if I just shut this whole thing down. Every morning when I woke up, I would go to the bathroom, I would weigh in, I would check all of my Fitbit metrics, make sure everything was logged food-wise from the day before. After I would log it in the spreadsheet, I'd then take all that information back to the original ChatGPT thread that I had started this whole thing with. I have to read off the list to you again because I can't keep it in my brain. It's so much information. But every day I'm checking in with Chat, and it has the following data for Chat to analyze for me, including calories, protein, water, and steps from the day before, my weight from that morning, and then what cycle day I was at check-in, what my sleep duration, REM sleep, and deep sleep were from that night, my HRV, my RHR, and my skin temp variation, along with any notes that I had about the day prior. So like if I was at a party and ate more than I would have, or had like a high sodium meal, didn't drink enough water, sleep wasn't great because the baby woke me up, whatever, I would plug in a little section of notes along with this entire check-in to give everything context. So I decided I was at least going to do this for 2 to 3 months because I wanted to get a macro view of what a full cycle looked like for me to help me get my head around those unique fluctuations in weight, bloating, symptoms, you know what I mean, every cycle, to see if there's a pattern, to see if there's something that I'm missing, because I'm in mom brain. You know, I'm living day to day. Sometimes it's hard to remember what happened 30 days ago around this time in my cycle. Like I can't even remember what I ate for breakfast yesterday, dude. So I decided I was going to commit. I was going to be fully upfront honest with myself and the numbers, because there was no point in doing all this guesswork, if I wasn't going to be real about the numbers of what I was eating, drinking water wise, tracking my steps, etc. I ended up actually committing to it for 4 full months. So when I was sending this information in my daily check-ins to ChatGPT, it wasn't just like log this. I kind of built a format that I wanted it to spit back at me whenever I would upload my numbers, like what's an ideal calorie range to stick to based on all of my recovery metrics, or how much sleep I got, what was going on in my cycle, how much water I should try and prioritize that day, how many steps I should try to get that day. And then sometimes I got dorky with it because I have like a whole cabinet of tea that I needed to work my way through. It was getting out of control. And so I'd be like, what's a good herbal tea for me today? Just to kind of have fun with it. And I just thought, I've spent this much time not knowing what to do. What's it going to hurt to plug my statistics daily into this machine and have it suggest something to me? Like, why not? Wish I could remember how I brought in the topic of my having PMDD, but however it was brought into this like conversation, so to speak, it led me down another rabbit hole, like when I was discovering that my high muscle mass meant that I had a higher metabolism than the average woman, even at a heavier weight. So this was another one of those scenarios where I happened to say something about it, and whatever it gave me back made me curious enough to start digging in more with chat, but then also going online and looking more into symptoms that women experience. And one of those big symptoms for me, it's not for all women, but for me with PMDD, is that I have extremely high water retention in the second part of my cycle. And I'm talking like, especially now that I track everything weekly in terms of measurements, photos, weight, I can see the scale fluctuate multiple pounds in 1 week when I know I ate what I was supposed to eat. And then I take my measurements and everything on my body will go down except for around like my midsection. That can go up sometimes as much as 10 centimeters for me, which is insane. That's so crazy. And that could so easily, and probably has so easily, gotten into my head in the past when I've been on like a health and fitness journey, because you think you're doing everything right, but you get on the scale. Well, I'm in the second part of my cycle and I gained 5 pounds and it's literally water weight, but I don't know that. Like, I didn't know this stuff. This is kind of one of those moments where I just really felt grateful that I was curious. Something sparked that voice in me to dig deeper and to look further into what PMDD can do to your body outside of just feeling really mad and mean for 2 weeks out of the month. There's more physiological things happening. And if you don't know what PMDD is, maybe I should have said this a little bit ago. Sometimes people explain it as like a really extreme version of PMS. They don't know how women end up with it. From my understanding though, it's linked to an increased sensitivity to the estrogen drop and the progesterone rise that happens after ovulation, leading up to a woman's period. For the irritability, it's insane. Like the second half of my cycle, I can get extremely angry and see red over things that are really not an actual issue. I get intrusive thoughts. I feel like I want to blow up my life and just like pack my whole family up and move to another country. And I think in my head all that would solve all my problems, when obviously they won't, because I'll still be with me. I can't run away from me. I go through this in my luteal phase almost every single cycle. And I did know that before starting down the fitness lifestyle path. Like, I had been into the doctor. I was diagnosed formally. I do take a very low dose prescription of Prozac. It makes things a little less extreme as long as everything else in my life, like sleep, hydration, eating well, is all going on. The Prozac does help take it down another notch. But if all of that other stuff is out of whack, it's almost like I'm not on the medication anymore. But the one thing I didn't really know about my PMDD was water retention. So down this rabbit hole with chat, somehow PMDD gets brought up. I'm looking more into it. I don't remember if ChatGPT says something about water retention being common with it, but then I start digging and I'm finding, yes, this is something that other women experience. And it's not just like a pound of water retention and light bloating. I can get as much as like 10, 12 centimeters bigger in 1 week. So after like finding this out, digging deeper into it, I'm on the chat thread again. And I'm like, some mornings I wake up and my wedding band is so extremely tight. I have to like use soap and water to pull it off that finger. I move it. It's on there right now. Because I just started my period. I move it to my pinky because it's just so extremely tight. And that led me to adding in a note to my daily check-ins of what my ring felt like, because that would be another clue for me as to what was going on with the scale when I would step on. Am I up? Okay, let's look at our hands. Like, how bloated are they? Do they look like little sausages? And if you watched either of my introductory videos, I think I talked about how weigh-in was so confusing to me because sometimes I would be good for like a whole week or two. I would weigh in and then I would see the scale go up and it would just mess with my head. And now I had a reason for why this was happening, and it helped again peel back another layer of that conditioning that if I'm stepping on the scale and it is up, I have gained fat. Once I put that puzzle piece into the picture, it was like a light bulb went off, because I've heard fitness experts, I've heard on YouTubes and podcasts and everything, that women should avoid weighing in daily for sure, and they should maybe not even weigh in weekly. They should try and do it once a month. But nobody said, like, what's the best time of the month for you to weigh in? To be fair, you could pick any time in the month to weigh in, as long as you're comparing it to the same time in your cycle, because then you're comparing like with like every month. So whether you have a 28-day or 35-day cycle, for me, the most ideal place to weigh in was just a couple of days after my period had ended. Seemed to be my lowest in water retention. So what that did was give me somewhere to always plan to weigh in around, to get a true baseline every single month, no matter how long my cycle was, because for a little while things were fluctuating for me there. I'm going to end today's video here, and in my next video I'm going to discuss how my average daily intake of calories increased over the 4 months I was tracking things with ChatGPT, and what that taught me about the link between my nutrition and my PMDD symptoms. If you stayed this long, thank you so much for being here. Smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and leave me a comment and tell me about your journey, because I want to know and I want to cheer you on. Again, thank you guys so much for being here. I love you so much. Bye.